Hello and welcome to Different Perspectives. I'm Paul Ndiho. The U.S. Supreme Court has cleared the way for President Donald Trump to revoke legal protections for more than 500,000 migrants. Most are from Cuba, Haiti, Nicaragua, and Venezuela, and many now face deportation. The ruling supports the administration's move to dismantle the humanitarian parole program established under President Joe Biden. Critics warn it strips vulnerable communities of protection. Supporters argue it reinforces long overdue immigration enforcement. Meanwhile, the administration has also halted all student visa applications and plans to extend social media vetting for international students as part of a broader crackdown on elite universities that the administration accuses of being too left-leaning. For more analysis, I spoke to Pamela Asobo-Anchang, editor of the Migrant magazine in Los Angeles. Welcome to Different Perspectives.
My pleasure. I'm always happy whenever we're having these conversations.
It's always a pleasure to talk to you as well. There's been a lot of talk about immigration, what is happening to immigrants, especially with the deportations of illegal immigrants. Bring us up to speed, maybe help us understand what this is all about.
Initially, it was about deporting undocumented immigrants, and then we started having people with green cards getting caught up, and then we had the protesters getting caught up, which eventually filtered into colleges, Harvard, name it, all the various universities where we had students protesting for different causes, which we know, for example, the Palestinian cause. And then students got caught up. I think what the administration is doing is using a lot of the laws in the book. Some of these, mind you, are not unlawful. Some are. For the green card holders, for example, there are clauses in your green card that stipulate that your green card is really a privilege, not a right. So it's permanent residency. And a lot of people were not aware that with the green card, you are supposed to be on your best behavior. And so with an administration that has pledged to deport as many people as possible, even though it said violent criminals, unfortunately, it has not kept that promise. It's deporting people with minor infractions. And most people don't know that when you travel out of the country, every time you come in, especially green card and otherwise, you are at the mercy of an immigration enforcer at the airport, at your port of entry. So it's at his evaluation. So if he evaluates and sees anything, he can decide that you are not eligible to get into the country. That was not in the case in the past. People just came in, you had a green card. A lot of people didn't want to transition from green card to citizenship because they always felt comfortable and safe with that. So my thing for those that have not heard us before, because we've had this conversation before, is for them to know if you are a green card holder, you cannot consider yourself safe. And unfortunately, the administration is not really pursuing what it should do, which is the due process. So people are being caught and they're being somewhat automatically deported. They're not given their day in court where you could go defend your case.
There are people that I know who have been caught up in this whole thing of green card, misusing their green cards, or misusing their people who have dual citizenship, misusing that. They use one passport leaving the country and try to use another passport coming back. And those people also have been caught up.
Before you do anything nowadays, you should consult with your immigration attorney. As far as the passport situation is concerned, some countries have dual citizenship, but I do know that when you pledge to become a U.S. citizen, I don't think you pledged for dual citizenship on the American side. So be careful with that. Getting legal advice, But again, going back to what we're talking about in terms of what's going on. So that is one category. And then you have the students, and then you have the foreign students. I'm sure you delve into that. But in a nutshell, there's a lot of anxiety in the immigrant community. And as far as getting visas, now we know that literally this administration is really picking and choosing who it feels belongs to America.
The issue of students. I've been getting calls talking to people who had visas to come here or who are already going to universities here. They're scared. They don't know if these visas are valid anymore. They don't know if they would be in class. Maybe now that the school year is ending, if they will even be able to come back next year. What are you hearing?
In the case of Harvard, the students all of a sudden, and God knows how many thousands of students could find themselves, undocumented, literally. So there's a lot of fear for the international students. Those that have traveled, they have to be careful. I would suggest just not go out of the country, and that's what I'm hearing. Everybody's advising students, international students who normally would travel, go on vacation, go home. Now is not the time to do that. Even as a student, there are laws that bind you as an F1 student, H1B, whatever it is, your status. There are laws that bind that. And so you don't want to, if you're not aware, because, we just live life daily and we forget. So say you're a student, you're not supposed to work and you happen to have worked because as a student, that could be, a strike against you. So students should be very, very careful. Well, as we know, Harvard tried to fight it and they just literally banned them from enrolling students. There was a ruling that, to put a pause on that. So I thought, but in the meantime, students are in harm's way. They don't know where they belong. Are you registered? Are you not registered? So we found out that, higher education now in America is really becoming contentious for international students.
The example you gave of Harvard University, could this go beyond Harvard? Could this spill over to other universities?
Absolutely, it could actually spill into other universities. But I think what they're doing with Harvard is trying to set an example to the others.
The oldest institution of learning.
Yeah, exactly. They're setting an example with Harvard. If they could do this to Harvard, then everybody else needs to pay attention because there are a lot of grants and that the government gives to all these institutions. So if they shut you down, and even though you're a private university, you're still the characterizing as security, right? Is the government, is the president that actually executes the security of the country or lays the groundwork and the framework for that. So they could always put that in that category that you are recruiting or enrolling terrorists or students that support terrorism, whatever the reasons may be. And they're trying to tell Harvard that you do not have the final say. But we'll see what the Supreme Court decides about that. So it could actually spill over, but that's left to be seen. But the problem is that the students become the collateral damage. You and I know what it takes for a student to get a visa to come to this country. You know what it takes for families to send their kids to this country. Or, in some cases, oh my gosh, you have to get first of all, the F1, the what they call the I-20. You have to get an I-20.
Yeah.
And then you get an I-20. Just to get an I-20, there's a fee for that. The application process is not easy. And then you get selected. And then you have to have the financial statements and the evidence and the proof. And then the flight is not cheap. And international students pay international fees. So they don't pay what residents, student American kids pay for tuition. So you're paying international tuition and still now you might not graduate.
I talk to a lot of people from across the aisle. There are people who are in support of what the administration is doing. They say, why are we surprised? President Donald Trump campaigned on this. Immigration was the biggest thing that he campaigned on. And the Americans loved it so much that they elected him again. Mm-hmm. So why are people so concerned about these deportations that are happening?
The president said what he was going to do, and people voted for that. So I'm really having a hard time, saying that he's this or he's that, because this is what he campaigned on, and Americans voted for that. So this is what they voted for. Unfortunately, most of the collateral, the damage, like the DACA or the undocumented or even the students, right, didn't have that opportunity to make that choice for themselves. You figure out that almost 6,800 students, international students, call Harvard University their home. So imagine that this were to go through. How many of them would be left without status? Without status in the United States. He is not to blame. Think about it. He said I was going to do this, and people applauded and they voted for it. So why are we surprised? It's just unfortunate, the collateral damage.
You've written a million stories about immigration, the plight of immigrants in America. You've put yourself out there. When you talk to some of these people, what are their stories?
Now, when I'm talking to a lot of people, you'll be surprised. There are those immigrants that actually think that he's the right person to do the job, unfortunately. And then there are those who thought that they were not going to be the victims, and they ended up being the victims. Whether it's because a family member got caught up in the system. I mean, you've read some of these stories. There are some immigrants that don't feel that this affects them. Unfortunately, they forget about their families back home. And some of them that are actually here have relatives. The fact that I'm unnaturalized, I'm a citizen, doesn't mean that everybody in my circle is okay. And what is even more interesting, if you've heard recently, is the deportations to third-party countries, to countries that are not the countries of the undocumented, like it's not their home country. People are being deported to South Sudan, I think maybe to Libya, to some of these places. So
Rwanda.
So if you are from Mexico, you find yourself in I'm from Africa. I don't think that I want to be deported to a country other than Cameroon, where I have no relatives, no friends. Now you're deporting these people to places where there are atrocities going on. And even if there are no atrocities, they don't know anybody there.
To your point, some of these places, some of these countries have figured out that the only way to get on the good side of this administration is to comply with some of their requests. They are not demands, they are requests. They're like, okay, if you want to do business with us, we are giving you this option. Are you for it or you are not? And if you are for it, are you going to work with us to take in some illegal immigrants?
Yes.
But even the Biden administration did it. I remember when Afghanistan happened, they were calling all these countries, asking them to take in refugees from Afghanistan and other places, and Syria.
Yeah, that happens. But you know what? It's well thought out most of the time in the other administration. And I'm sure every administration has done something. What is different now is the lack of due process, number one. These immigrants are not being, first of all, we're deporting people that we're not even sure they should be deported. American citizens are going to get caught up because these people are not showing up in a court of law in front of an immigration judge and given that opportunity to defend their case. That's the first thing that we have to consider. So by the time you figure out what's going on, you might already be in on some continent that you don't even know why you're there. Yes, and they have to get permission from the countries to receive their citizens, right? Mm-hmm. And some countries turn it down. I know Mexico had one of those situations and eventually complied because in order to do business, they had to comply and they said, okay, we'll take them, right? So there's all of that. And it's always a tug of war. There's no perfect situation. What we're asking for is that we at least consider all options and give these people an opportunity. I don't want violent immigrants here. I don't want anybody violent. And think about the fact that you are sending these violent criminals, for example, to another country other than theirs. So if they're not good for you, the United States, you're not sending them back to their own countries of origin. You're now sending violent criminals to countries that can't even handle their own situations. Have we thought about that?
Why is America a very attractive destination for immigrants from all over the world? I remember at the peak of the southern border crisis, there were people from every part of the world. whether it was China, whether it was Congo, whether it was Syria,
Yes.
Afghanistan, Mongolia, every single person came through the southern border. Why is America very attractive?
Opportunity. America paints itself as the beacon of freedom. Most people are coming here because they know when they come to United States, they will have freedom, they will have economic opportunity, they will have safety, security. America has been, America, when you think about the founding fathers and the foundations of America, America was built on the backs of people that were running away from um, situations that they didn't like, from oppression. And so America was created as an immigrant country. The only indigenous people of America are the natives, who unfortunately paid the ultimate price for all of us to be here. I always like to give them recognition because I've talked to a lot of them. I've had to interact with a lot of Native Americans, and they have reconciled, most of them have reconciled themselves to the fact that this is what it is. When you think about it, all civilizations and all great countries and all nations, someone has done something not so good for people to settle in those places. But America is very particular in the sense that as it did that, it became the beacon. I mean, the Statue of Liberty says, "Come here and bring me your suffering, bring me your pain, whatever it is." The Statue of Liberty says, "And I will embrace you." And so, for generations, we come to America because it's the land of opportunity. It's most importantly the freedom, the democratic process that we come to respect. That you even think people from Europe come to America. It's so funny that Europeans continue to come and we look at Europe and we think they are doing great. But this is where people, great minds, America is the blood. I mean, America is built on the backs and the blood of immigrants. Let me remind you, there are about 46.2 first generation immigrants in America as we speak today. That's the number. 46, almost 47 million first generation immigrants in America. And that and all of them contribute in the trillions of dollars to America's greatness. And in there you find the best minds that make up America. The immigrants make up America.
You and I are both immigrants, and we owe America a great deal of gratitude for the opportunities that we've had here.
Yeah.
But there are those people who want to come and experience those opportunities. At the same time, they're scared now when they read what's happening in the news, when they see those ICE agents, roughing up people. It's not a pretty scene. How can maybe you, as somebody who writes about immigrant stories, reassure these people who want to come here? Is there opportunity in this country? Can they still make it here if they are able to come legally and live here?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. You know, the thing about it is, while we are here experiencing these anxieties, you have to remember that America has already been built. And the infrastructure is already there. The structures and the systems are already in place, even though they're being tested. This season shall come to pass. It shall come to pass. And so I just tell them to continue to fight and to dream, because America is a land of dreams, a land where dreams do come true. You and I, the fact that we're even having this conversation is a dream come true.
Birthright citizenship. There's been a lot of talk. You listen to both conservative and liberal media. The way they talk about it, it's something else. The case is up in the courts all the way to the Supreme Court. Very soon we might learn the fate of that as well. Explain it in simple terms what that means.
You know, the president, again, in one of his executive orders, that it was trying to exclude children that were born on U.S. soil by undocumented immigrants from getting that citizenship. Because usually when you're born in the United States, you are an American citizen. That is part of the Constitution. It's a constitutional right. The sense was that people come here undocumented and have children or whatnot. And so, but that is the problem right there, because the Constitution does not say if you're born to undocumented immigrants, then you were not. Because if you think about it, the founding fathers all came here. Everybody was undocumented. Nobody came to America legally. First, are estimating that we're talking about 255,000 children every year who will be denied citizenship under this new policy, which then will make 2.7 million children stateless by 2045. So this is a serious matter. And so that's why the Supreme Court has to really, really do something about it, has taken it up and they're looking into it, because the 14th Amendment states that all persons born unnaturalized or naturalized in the United States is an American citizen. And so to take this right from them, I just can't even wrap my brain around it. This is a very, very important topic because it's going to have ripple effects on so many other aspects of what is supposed to be the fabric of America.
How about people who abuse that very law in place? You have a lot of people who come here just purposely to have their children here, and once that kid is born, give and take, a month later, they get on the flight and out of the country. But the kid has an American passport.
Yeah.
How about people like that who abuse the system? They're not even illegal immigrants. They don't live here. But just because they have the resources to do it, they're able to come and spend some time here and have babies. Once they get that coveted passport, off they go.
That's a very good question, because I think I've written about that topic before. They're called anchor babies. So anchor babies is when somebody comes here and has a baby and takes off. Now, if you want to address anchor babies, then address anchor babies. That can be up for debate. That can be up for conversation. And that should be a decision that American people should vote upon. Because all I know is that the 14th Amendment says if you are born on American soil, you are an American citizen.
Afrikaners who are, quote unquote, are fleeing for their lives from South Africa. And just for context, Afrikaners are white South Africans. These are Dutch descendants who have lived in South Africa for generations. But more recently, there's been a lot of rhetoric back in South Africa, both on social media and even in some cases on political campaigns. People use some kind of rhetoric targeting white farmers or Afrikaners. And to the extent that some of them feel like their lives are threatened, and therefore they have been seeking asylum or refugee status here in the United States. As we speak, I think maybe about 49 or more have already arrived in the United States, and they were granted a special status. You've seen the stories, you've read the news, you've probably written something about it. Your thoughts?
I say it's a tale of two asylums. Let's pretend that, yes, that's what's going on in South Africa, which we know is not the truth, is not completely accurate. How is that different from the Afghans who fought alongside American soldiers, right? And that were brought here to give them protection. We know, if you know about Afghanistan, in Afghanistan, women are at the level of an animal. Like, a woman doesn't have as much power as even an animal in Afghanistan. We're talking about a country that kills you and persecutes you for whatever reason that we know about the Taliban. So how is that different? Why? And we are rescinding their temporary protected status, potentially sending them back to Afghanistan. What about all the atrocities in all the African countries, the DRC, name it, all these countries where there is trouble? Even in my own country, Cameroon, in the part of Cameroon where I'm from, I can't even go back home because of the atrocities that we have endured for the last maybe 50 years, right? And we are not, nobody has said, oh, let's give, as a matter of fact, Cameroon temporary TPS has been rescinded as well. What about Haitians? We're talking about even Venezuelans. We're talking about different groups that are brown, mostly, as you can see, black and brown asylum seekers or refugees whose protections are being rescinded. Mm-hmm. And now we're talking about, so I'm just looking at it from a purely legal perspective. And now we're expediting the process for them. The president is giving them, like they don't, to get asylum, first of all, you have to go in front of an immigration judge and make your case. You have to retain an attorney, and then you have to go in front of the, and justify your case and prove why you deserve this. And in some cases, even though you may have your story, you may really be at risk of, being
sent to a third country.
Yes, right. And yet you are not even granted asylum. And then not to mention the refugees that we actually turned down, who were already approved to be resettled. We already turned that down. And then now we're going to expedite for these Afrikaners. Let's just pretend, for the sake of argument, that it's justified. Why are we expediting for them and not the others? Now let's speak about the facts. I'm sure by now we are all aware that there is no active genocide against white South Africans or Afrikaners. I decided on my own to go and do the research to find out, is there something I'm missing? And all I could come up with is that, just like most countries, South Africa has a problem with crime.
Very high crime.
High crime. I mean, I remember, was it Lucky Dube? There's some
yes,
artist
who got shot on the yes.
Yes. And I've heard a distant relative of mine was killed in South Africa.
I have lost people in South Africa because of crime.
Yes. And let's not forget the xenophobia that Africans faced in South Africa when they were being targeted, literally almost hunted, by Black South Africans against their own folks. Remember?
Yeah, that happens on a daily basis. It's still there.
But there was a time when Black Africans in South Africa they're literally being killed because the Black
about 2-3 years ago, the xenophobia attacks on all immigrants.
Nobody said, "Oh my gosh, these people are being targeted. Let's bring them to America." The image of those white South Africans coming, oh my God, broke my heart. I felt like a jab. I don't think it's a pain just for Black South Africans. It's a pain for all Black people all over the world. We felt like we were spat in the face. Like we can do whatever. We can rape you. We can raid you. We can seize your land. And at the end of the day, we can still live the best life. And there's nothing you can do about it. I don't want us to paint a picture of white against Black or Black against white. I want us to paint a picture of optimism and that we have allies. The Episcopal Church, for example, stood up. Typically, they would receive refugees and go all the way to accommodate all refugees. But this time, they said no, that they will not be accommodating the white South Africans, the Afrikaners. So that gave me hope. And I know that all the different organizations, we do have allies in this fight. So let's not despair. There's hope at the end of the tunnel, and this too shall pass.
Well, Pamela, this too shall pass. I will end it there. Thank you so much for your time.
It's always a pleasure.
We want to know what you think. Share your thoughts in the comment section below. Don't forget to like, follow, and subscribe to Paul Ndiho on X, Instagram, Threads, Facebook, LinkedIn, Blue Sky, and YouTube.